From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Coming to you live here on this this Thursday. It is the 27th day in the month of April 2017. Got a lot to get to today, mostly football, as the schedules came out earlier this week. You had two running back signings for Oakland and New Orleans. But that takes a back seat to what is going to happen in just a couple of hours, which is the NFL draft, uh, which has been very interesting, to say the least, because there are a couple of guys, there are two guys that if you follow guys like Mel Kiper and that guys who put out mock drafts in December, there have been two guys that have really been the consensus who might be going one or two. It's really between Mitch Trubisky and Myles Garrett, defensive end at Texas A&M and quarterback out of North Carolina. For Cleveland, just jumping right into it. For Cleveland, a to pick a quarterback is almost mandatory at this point. Cleveland needs a quarterback. They need to find a franchise quarterback. The last couple guys they've tried to find have completely failed. So it makes sense for them to pick a quarterback. Not Mitch Trubisky, not with the number one overall pick. You look through just the top six with the Jets. You have Cleveland needs a quarterback. San Francisco could use a quarterback, but I would assume that San Francisco is looking more towards next year. The Bears just signed a quarterback. Jacksonville doesn't need one. Tennessee doesn't need one. Now the Jets do. Tennessee, my assumption is Tennessee would be willing to move that pick. Now we know San Francisco for sure is shopping that pick, is shopping the number two pick. If I were Cleveland, if I were Cleveland and if I wanted people to take me seriously next year, here's what I do. I give Tennessee the number 12 pick and I give them maybe two of my picks in the second round. I get that number 5 overall pick. I take Myles Garrett 1, Mitch Trubisky with the number 5 pick. If I'm Cleveland, that is what makes the most sense. The head coach wants Garrett. The front office, who have bought completely hook, line, and sinker, have bought into analytics, say that Trubisky is the best option. There was a report that came out not all that long ago on ESPN from Adam Schefter, who this came out 20 minutes ago from Adam Schefter, who my personal feeling is has the most punchable face in the world, that the Browns have decided they are going to take Myles Garrett with the number 1 pick. So that has been announced, but with Cleveland, you never know. This is a franchise that has screwed up more than its fair share of drafts over the last 10, 12 years. And if you do not take Myles Garrett, one, he's definitely going to San Francisco, and two, you get a guy in Mitch Trubisky who is the safest quarterback, and the reason why he has gone up so much is one, there's a need for quarterbacks in this league, and two, he doesn't have as many downsides as Deshaun Watson or Kaiser. I mean, this is, or Mahomes. To take Mitch Trubisky with the number one pick would be a colossal mistake. If you want to trade up and go to number five, if you want to trade your 12 pick up and go to five, that's fine. I can live with that. And take Trubisky number five, I can live with that. Now, the Jets have been rumored to be taking O.J. Howard, a tight end out of Alabama. Now, my thought is you really don't have a tight end. That's really what you're at right now. You have Bostic, Bowman, Parker, Seferian, Jenkins, Eric Tomlinson, and Vanderland. The most experienced of those are Bostic and Jenkins at 4 years. But let's be honest now. You have McCown, Hackenberg, and Bryce Petty throwing to those tight ends. What are the odds that the ball is going to make it to one of those tight ends? They did not sign McCown with the intent of being the number one quarterback. McCown is in there. He's going to have to fight for a starting job in training camp. He was brought in with that in mind. Which leads me to believe that the perfect pick is Deshaun Watson. Because what do the Jets need in that locker room? They need an alpha on offense. They do not have an offensive alpha, which is what everyone says is Watson's style. You've seen Watson play on a big stage, even though the Jets aren't going to be on a big stage for quite a while, but you've seen what he can do on a big stage. He can play up to his opponent. The biggest problem with him is he is wildly inconsistent. And year as year and year have gone on at Clemson, his stats have digressed ever so slightly each year. Watson is a project, but all of these quarterbacks in this draft are a project. Kuiper has him going 7 to the LA Chargers, which means Watson's not going to be playing for another 3 years. Phillip Rivers will be in the league for another 3 to 4 years, and then he'll probably get moved because it'll be an Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre situation where they just can't keep Rodgers sitting on the bench. Beyond Cleveland and the Jets, there is no team in the top 13 beyond Cleveland and the Jets that need a quarterback. San Francisco just signed a quarterback. Chicago just signed a quarterback. San Francisco's looking to shop the number 2 pick. To who? Probably someone like, I don't know, Washington, who is going to need a quarterback because it sounds like the deal is the number 2 overall pick for Kirk Cousins. That's what it sounds like the deal is going to be because Washington has not signed Cousins to a long-term contract yet. And there's really no other team in this first round that they could trade up to that needs a quarterback. If Trubisky does not go number 1, he's not going 2, 3, 4, or 5, which means the Jets will probably get what they wanted, which was Trubisky. The problem with that is, one, Who does San Francisco trade to? And if it's to Washington, then Washington's picking up Trubisky. Because I do not see the number 2 overall pick going to Washington without Kirk Cousins being a part of that deal. And then you have to worry about whether or not Cleveland is going to trade the number 12 to slot in front of the Jets and get Tennessee's pick. And if San Francisco doesn't trade the number 2 pick and Cleveland does trade into the 5, then you got to worry about Cleveland getting Trubisky also. It's going to be it'll be a hefty price for Cleveland to get 2 picks in the first round, in the top 5. It's going to take the number 12 definitely. And if that does happen, then Tennessee will be picking number 12 and number 18. To me, everyone is looking at Trubisky. My thought is, if you're the Jets, go with Watson. Go with Watson. This way, you don't have to carry Bryce Petty. You give Hackenberg a little bit more time to grow into the backup role. I know it's been what? The Jets, if they do draft either Trubisky or Deshaun Watson, I know it's what, 4 quarterbacks in 5 years, and that's not a good look. But with Deshaun Watson, you are more sure than you were with Smith, than you were with Hackenberg. You are more sure with any of those quarterbacks that you've drafted. Sanchez, you're more sure that this kid is going to be a star in this league than any of those guys. And he definitely can be. He's got arm strength. His decision making's a little poor. He can roll out of the pocket. He can maneuver out of the pocket. These are all good signs. These are all good things. While his decision making can be a little bit better, he is an A-type personality. He knows what he's doing on a whiteboard. He knows what he's talking about when he's watching film or when he's looking at pictures. To me, I know they say Trubisky is the safest pick. But honestly, if this were next year and you're talking about Sam Darnold and all those other guys being in the draft, Trubisky would not be a first rounder. He is a first round pick, possibly a top 10 pick in a year where there are no quarterbacks. You can look at Watson and say, well, he's coming off a national title. You can look at Pat Mahomes and say he's coming off a good year. Kaiser is not even in the first round on Kuiper's first round mock, his last mock before the draft. To me, I know it's another quarterback. I know it's not an ideal situation. Hackenberg's not going to be a player in the league. McCown's going to be here for a year and then they're going to dump him. Petty is not a starter. I like the guy. I think he's got ability. He's not a starter. Watson can come in and he can change that offense. He's got one target in Eric Decker. He's got the running back help with Matt Forte. So he can definitely help. He can turn the Jet. I mean, he's not going to be able to turn the Jets around alone. But as far as a quarterback that the Jets have brought in since Chad Pennington, he's got the best shot out of all of them to make it. He's got the best shot out of all of them to do something and sustain it. The Giants, they're also looking at a tight end from Miami. The Giants need a tight end, yes, but a middle linebacker is a bigger priority. And offensive lineman should be the number one priority for the Giants. You want to talk about Cam Robinson out of Alabama? Remchinsky out of Wisconsin on the line? Possibly Reuben Foster, middle linebacker out of Alabama, if he falls. Because those guys that I just mentioned, Kuiper has them going Robinson 19 to the Bucks, Remchinsky going 20 to Denver, and then Foster 22 to Miami. And I believe with Foster, you have to worry about the whole marijuana issue, the diluted test, which I found out recently, it does not take much to dilute a test. It just takes a little bit more than a liter of water to dilute a test. And you can call the whole cramp thing an excuse. But it's not an excuse when the kid has a reported history of it going all the way back to high school, freshman year of high school. That's not an excuse. That is an issue. And beyond that, there really is no one else for the Giants to draft in the first round. Unless you want to draft Forrest Lamp. The Giants have 23. Forrest Lamp, offensive guard out of Western Kentucky, is projected to go 29 to Green Bay. So if you want to take a chance on Lamp and try to shove him up the draft board a little bit, that's fine too. If you're the Giants, just like last year, you need an offensive lineman and you need an inside linebacker. You need a middle linebacker. If the Giants are stupid and draft a corner again, there's going to be no change. If I'm the Giants, I'm stocking up on the offensive line and I'm trying to somehow sneak a middle linebacker in the first or second round, whether it be Foster or somebody. Get a guy who's slated as an outside linebacker that has middle linebacker experience and try to shove him in the middle. But the offensive line for the Giants is key. That is paramount. That is really the only issue the Giants should be worrying about, not a tight end. You have three dangerous receivers in Beckham, Marshall, and Reuben Randall. You don't need a tight end. Of course you can use a tight end, but you don't need a tight end in the first round of the draft. You don't need it. But that's the draft. Starts in what? An hour and a half from now? From Philadelphia. Again, I believe the report, I believe Schefter's report on ESPN that Cleveland has finally come to their senses and are going to draft Myles Garrett number 1. The top 5 is going to be interesting. Will San Francisco trade out? Who do they trade to? Does Cleveland trade back into the top five for a second pick in the top five? And who do the Jets get? The top 10 is very interesting. Then you're kind of just laying around waiting for the Giants. So the top 10 as always will get a lot of attention. And then you're really waiting around until pick number 23. That and you also had the trade for Marshawn Lynch from Oakland, from Seattle to Oakland. Then the signing of Adrian Peterson going to New Orleans. A buddy of mine asked me today, who do you think is going to have a bigger impact on their team? Will it be Peterson in New Orleans or Lynch in Oakland? And my thought was it's going to be close, but I think it's going to be Lynch in Oakland. Because you have a quarterback in Drew Brees in New Orleans who's used to throwing it 40 times a game. So Peterson's only going to get, what, 15, 20 touches a game? Where Lynch, who will definitely be swapping in and out with Murray, there's no doubt about that, he stands to get more. Because Carr, although he does throw it a lot, does not throw it nearly as often as Drew Brees. I think Marshawn will be more impactful in Oakland. Also partly because I think the hometown crowd, that hometown feel, I'm with my home team. I think that'll give him a little kick in the butt every time he gets on the field too. I'm home. Let me do what I do. Let me go into beast mode. Peterson, you could have the same thing with Peterson. That feeling of I'm making $7 million over the course of 2 years. Well, the second year is an option, but I'm making $7 million. The possibility of like 8.3 over 2 years. I got to think of this as a 1 year contract. I got to put my best foot forward, and I got to kill it this year so I can get a decent deal. And most importantly, for Peterson, not get hurt. It's going to be very interesting to see those two in action this year, especially after Lynch didn't play last year. Peterson was hurt, dealing with the contract issue off the field. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch those two. So that is football. We will do that definitely tomorrow. We'll take a look at the draft tomorrow. I really hope and I'm not a Jet fan. You guys know that. I genuinely hope. Just because I rag on the Jets a lot, partially because it's fun, mostly because it's just so easy. I genuinely hope that the Jets pick Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson gives the Jets the best chance to win. Instead of a tight end who is going to have no quarterback to throw him the ball. I'd be looking at either Trubisky or Deshaun Watson. Watson won't play in San Diego for a couple years with the Chargers in LA. I'm going to do that a lot this year. He's not going to be playing with the Chargers for at least another 3 years. 4 years at 4 years at most. After 4 years, like why'd you draft him? If Cleveland doesn't trade back into the top five, then the Jets may have Trubisky, who the first time I heard his name was for a Jet workout. And I believe I reported that here on the show. I know they just signed Josh McCown, but really, you're going to rest your hopes on Josh McCown. You're going to rest your hopes on a guy who could not be the starting quarterback in Cleveland. You're going to rest your hopes on that guy. I don't think so. And then again, you have to see who San Francisco trades their pick to, and if they do trade it, who do they get? The only trading partner I see for San Francisco is Washington for Kirk Cousins. And honestly, Cousins wants to play for Shanahan. He doesn't have the contract that he wants yet. I'm sure San Francisco will give them that number 2 pick. And whether Washington gets Cousins and what is it, the 17th pick, Washington may end up with the number 2 and the number 17. But if San Francisco trades that number 2 pick to Washington and it involves Kirk Cousins, the Jets have to be really wary. And this is where maybe that tight end does come into play. Because you know they're going to pick Trubisky, Washington. You know they're going to pick Trubisky. And then if Cleveland does trade back into the top 5, you have to assume it's because of Deshaun Watson. And then if you're the Jets, you're completely lost. You're completely out of it. Maybe if Jamal Adams falls from number 5 down, who knows? But that all comes tomorrow. I'm assuming the Giants are going to screw this up again. They screwed it up last year. They needed an offensive lineman in the first round. They picked a corner, of which they had too many. It just, even though Eli Apple planned out, I'm sure a lot of Giants fans would have rathered them have an offensive lineman last year. Anyway, again, I hope the Jets pick Deshaun Watson. I really hope that McCagnon and Bowles are smart enough, because if this draft goes sour, they're essentially putting the pink slip on their desks. And their performance over the year will determine how quickly they sign it. And the Giants, you just got to hope that they pick what they need. You really have to hope that they pick what they need. Meanwhile, you have the Yankees, who won last night against Boston 3-1. Them and the Mets both had their games rained out on Tuesday. Severino pitched a great game. This was the thing that you focused on and that a lot of people criticized about the Yankees, is the fact that they have next to no rotation, and that the rotation really does have to pick it up this year. They've picked it up. Tanaka has rebounded off of his bad start on opening day. You're getting consistency out of Michael Pineda, which is something that you hadn't gotten. You're getting consistency out of Luis Severino, who is honestly supposed to be just as good as Pineda. Sabathia isn't killing you, and as I said, I believe on Monday, that Montgomery isn't killing you either. He's actually put in a couple of quality starts. So the Yankees do play tonight. They are still a game and a half behind Baltimore. I believe Baltimore won today. They did. Chance to extend to 2 games over Boston, take 2 of the 3, with the one being a rainout. So really 2 of the 2. I believe they're in the same boat as the Mets, where they'll make that game up in September. Which, oh, trust me, we'll get to the Mets. But for the Yankees right now, Gabby Sanchez should be playing rehab games this weekend. You're expecting Didi Gregorius back tomorrow for the start of the Baltimore series, which that is going to turn into a major series in the beginning of the season. What, 12-7? No one expected this. Nobody could have expected the New York Yankees to be 12-7 at the end of April. Nobody could have predicted this. Tonight, you have Tanaka versus Chris Sale. Boy, this is going to be a good matchup if these two guys are on. Tanaka 2-1 with a 6 ERA and 19 strikeouts coming into the game. Chris Sale 1-1 with an 0.91 ERA and 42 strikeouts through what? This is 4 starts. 5th start. Since joining the Red Sox, he had at least 10 strikeouts in 3 of his 4 starts and has gone at least 7 innings in all 4. 4 hits over 8 innings versus the Blue Jays in his last start, striking out 13. Chris Sale has been everything that he has been billed to be in Boston. The lineup tonight for Jacoby Ellsbury, for the Yankees: Jacoby Ellsbury, Aaron Hicks, Chase Headley, Matt Holliday, Starlin Castro, Aaron Judge. Kid's got 7 home runs already. Good God. Chris Carter, Austin Romine, Ronald Torreyes with Masahiro Tanaka on the mound. For Boston tonight, Dustin Pedroia, Andrew Benintendi, Mookie Betts, Hanley Ramirez, Mitch Moreland, Xander Bogart, Jackie Bradley Jr., Sandy Leone, and Marco Hernandez with Chris Sale on the mound. That's what you got for the Red Sox tonight. That game will be on Yes. It'll also be on the MLB Network. Now, you get to the Mets, who are, as I put down in the description, are doing everything in their power to kill their playoff hopes before May. This team has been injury plagued. This team has been injury killed. Syndergaard has had an issue after every single start this year, whether it be his nail, whether it be a blood blister, whether it be now a bicep. Said he was fine during the game last night. After the game, he fell asleep, woke up, couldn't lift his arm. Wonderful. You know, that's one of the main qualities I look for in a pitcher is, can you lift your arm? I don't know about you guys, but that's one of the main things I look for in a pitcher is his ability to lift and move his arm. Cespedes playing on a bad hamstring, re-injured it again, re-pulled his hamstring again, had to be helped off the field. Thank you for coming, Cespedes. Darno's hurt. He's had injury problems every year. Duda's hurt. He's had injury problems every single year. Cabrera's hurt. There goes your shortstop. Flores is hurt. Well, there goes your third baseman because now we have to move Reyes over to short. Now, who the hell are we putting at third base? So now you got TJ Rivera up here. You have Ty Kelly up here playing every day. I mean, come on. Really? Steven Matz has his problem. Seth Lugo has his problem coming off of the World Baseball Classic. All of these guys, three of your five in the rotation, Syndergaard, Matz, and Lugo was supposed to be in the rotation over Gazelman. With Gazelman starts, you're finding out why. Gazelman was great last year, hasn't been that great this year. Wheeler's getting hit. Darling seeing things in Harvey today that's making you think, oh God, is now Harvey hurt again? Duda can't stay on the field. Lord knows if Wright's ever going to play baseball again. You have d'Arnaud, another starter. Cabrera, your starting shortstop. Now Cespedes, your big bat and left. All 3 weeks into the season. You're not even 3 weeks into the season. Mets are stone dead last 21 games into the season. So yeah, 3 weeks into the season exactly. 3 weeks worth of games into the season exactly. 21 games, you are 8-13, stone dead last. This was a team that was supposed to win 95 games this year. Their starting pitching has been great. Their bullpen has been anemic, has been dreadful. Their bats have been anemic. This team is doing everything it can, one, to eliminate all hopes of playoff contention as early as possible, and two, get Terry Collins fired in what's probably going to be his last year before he retires. You could say, well, maybe, just maybe, they're getting all of this garbage out of the way early, and they can get a run through, September. Honestly, this is the Mets. What are the odds of that? This is the Mets. I recall a line from the movie Rookie of the Year. When the Cubs are blowing it in the last game of the season, and the owner of the team goes to one of the kids who's all upset, this is the Cubs. You get used to this sort of thing. This is the Mets. You get used to this sort of thing. The one year that they have genuine high hopes, and they are literally breaking under the pressure. This team has never had pressure on it. This team has never had expectations on it. Now that it finally does, it breaks. And breaks in every which way. The rotation, the bullpen, your closer suspended for domestic assault for the first 15 games of the year, your starting center fielders hurt over the offseason, or your best defensive center fielders hurt over the offseason. Your number 5 starter hurts himself in the World Baseball Classic final. And everyone else is dropping like flies, and oh wait, it's still April. Coming out of that series in Miami, the Mets very well could have went on a 4-game sweep and had 11 wins. They have had 1 win since the opening night in Miami, the 16-inning game that d'Arnaud hit the home run. They've had 1 win since then. They've played 3 games in Miami, 3 games against Washington, 3 games against Philadelphia, and now 2 against Atlanta since then. And guess what? They're going to Washington, and dare I tell you what the final of that game was today? Washington, oh, you know what? Colorado 5, Washington 16. And the Mets were barely able to squeak out 5. They scored 2 yesterday. Kurt Suzuki hit a 3-run home run. The last time Kurt Suzuki was a meaningful name in baseball was when he was with Oakland 7 years ago. Now he's nothing more than a platoon catcher. The Mets were outscored by Atlanta in those 2 games 15-7. And now they have to go into Washington to take on the Nationals. Throwing DeGrom, Wheeler, and Gazelman. Honestly, just quit now. Just give up. If the Mets win, the best chance the Mets have to win in Washington is tomorrow night with DeGrom. If the Mets do not win with DeGrom, what would it be? It would be a 9-game losing streak, 8 or a 9-game losing streak. And you know what? That I honestly think you have better odds at the Mets going on a 9-game losing streak right now than you do having them win tomorrow. Their bullpen has been a disgrace. Their lineup has been anemic. The only part of that team that can salvage anything is the starting rotation, and they're dropping like flies. You already have 3/5 of the starting rotation hurt. Syndergaard's had a problem with him after every single start. To his credit, he always comes back for the next. To his credit, he has not been completely skipped in the rotation. He's had his start pushed back. He had the second start pushed back, but he has not been completely skipped. And Matz and Lugo haven't even started the year. It's it takes a toll on you. It really does. But again, you're a Met fan. You get used to this sort of thing. So much going on with that. You almost completely forget that the NHL started their second round last night. A win for the Predators, 4-3 win for the Predators against St. Louis. A 5-3 win in a wild third period between Anaheim and Edmonton last night in Anaheim. I watched that Anaheim Edmonton game in the third period. That was a crazy third period. They went into the third period tied 1-1, and you end it 5-3. Edmonton scores 2 goals inside of 4 minutes. Anaheim then comes back and answers by scoring 2 goals inside of a minute 30. You get a late game goal for Edmonton, and then it gets chippy from there. That is going to be a chippy series. That is going to be a chippy, physical series. If you want, I understand it's out west. I understand it's 10 o'clock starts. But if you are a hockey fan and you want to see physical hockey, watch that Edmonton-Anaheim game. or that Anaheim Edmonton series, because that is going to be a physical, chippy series. Cassian led it last night. 3.7 seconds to go. He slashes Ryan Kessler up 5-3 with the game over. Really? You're going to slash Ryan Kessler and then get mad that Kessler slashes you back? What did you expect? You slashed the guy out in the middle of open ice for no reason. Ottawa does start tonight against the Rangers. Honestly, I think the next real opponent for the Rangers is going to be either Washington or Pittsburgh, whoever comes out of that series. I don't see Ottawa putting up much of a fight against the Rangers. Montreal won the Pacific. Ottawa finished third. Sorry, did I say the Pacific? I meant the Atlantic. My bad. So if the Rangers knock out the division winner, okay, Ottawa finished second in the Atlantic. Sorry. If the Rangers beat Montreal as easily as they did, they really only had the one bad game, and that was Game 3. If they took care of Montreal, who won the Atlantic, as easily as they did, they're not going to have any problem going through Ottawa. Because Ottawa is not as good as Montreal. I don't want to say this is going to be an easy win for the Rangers. I want to say it's going to be 5 games with the Rangers winning it. I think it's going to be 5 games because the Rangers are coming in high. Zuccarello's playing well. Nash is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Lundqvist is standing on his head. Girardi's mad. McDonough's pissed. Girardi looked like he did 5 years ago. I do not see the Rangers getting. I don't see the Rangers having too much difficulty with Ottawa in this series. Washington Pittsburgh, that could go to 7. If I'm Alexander Ovechkin, I am sick and GD tired of Sidney Crosby knocking me out of the playoffs. I don't want it to happen again. And you could almost say that this is. I mean, if you want to try to make the argument that this Ovechkin's last chance. No, it's not because Washington just won the President's Trophy for the second year in a row, so they're not going anywhere. If he wants to validate his career, what is there to validate? Of course, you want to win a Stanley Cup, but there have been a lot of great players that have never won the Cup. So again, Nashville leading their series after the first one last night against St. Louis 4-3. Edmonton beating Anaheim last night 5-3. Rangers starting tonight at 7:30. If I saw that correctly, either 7 or 7:30. Rangers starting tonight at. I just had it. Where did it go? Okay, there it is. Rangers starting tonight at 7, so they're starting in 10 minutes on CNBC. And then on the NBCSN, you have Pittsburgh and Washington, first game of that series. Really quick before we do the scores, NASCAR news from yesterday that Dale Earnhardt Jr. announces his retirement from NASCAR Effective immediately after the 2017 series. This is the third consecutive year now that you have had a major player in NASCAR retire. Jeff Gordon in 2015, Tony Stewart last year, and now Dale Earnhardt Jr. NASCAR is running out of established stars, which is not at all a bad thing. When you talk about NASCAR, the first names that come to your mind are Gordon, Earnhardt, and Stewart. Then comes Busch, either one, Harvick, Hamlin, and then Johnson, of course. But then after that, you kind of fall away, and you can't really give me another name, and that's good because there are a lot of young kids that are in the Cup Series right now. Larson, who I'm a fan of, Chase Elliott, who I'm not a fan of. I don't understand why. I have an irrational hatred for Chase Elliott. It has nothing to do with the fact that he took Gordon's seat. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. I just don't like him. You know how you have that one, if you're a racing fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have, I mean, your guy gets beat, you just have to make sure he beats that one guy that you don't like. Like I know for all Earnhardt fans, it was Gordon. If Gordon beat you, then it didn't matter where you finished. You could have finished second. If Gordon finished first, you're like, God, he beat us. That's how I feel with Chase Elliott. Kyle Larson has to beat Chase Elliott every week, or I'm not happy. I don't know why. I like the kid. He's got talent. I just don't want Kyle Larson to lose to him. And I don't know why. I don't know why. Ryan Blaney. You have a couple of other young names coming up. Cole Custer, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez. These are all young guys who, trust me, if you don't know who they are now, you're going to in the next couple of years. Those names that I mentioned are going to be as big or bigger than Johnson, Gordon, Stewart. They are the future of that sport, and if they are the future of that sport, NASCAR's got a bright future. But for Junior to announce his retirement at the end of the season, leaves NASCAR with a big hole. Because for the first time, really, since what, the 60s? Or the late 70s? There is not an Earnhardt racing in NASCAR on a weekly basis. Sure, you have Jeffrey Earnhardt racing every now and again, but it's not the same. On a weekly basis, this will be the 2018 will be the first time, and Earnhardt will not be a weekly racer in the Cup Series since what I think 78 or 79. Which that's just incredible to think. Last year with the concussions really must have messed with him. Because that concussion that he suffered, I think, what was it, at Kentucky or something? That concussion that he suffered there, that he made worse at Michigan, I think really woke him up. That kept him out of the car for the second half of the season. I think that really woke him up. Saying if a concussion can do that much to me, I don't want to be around to see what it might do again later. It was it was absolutely an eye opener to him. Just really quick before we go, again, I'm sorry to Luis Sanchez. I do apologize if you are still listening. Um, Honestly, flipping between all these different pages that I have open on the computer here, I didn't see your comments until just now. Um, for who who I have Seattle picking. Seattle. Tre'Davious White, cornerback out of LSU. I think they will pick a corner. The three corners that are around him are Kevin King out of Washington, Tre'Davious White out of LSU, and Marlon Humphrey out of Alabama. I think it's going to be one of those three. Those are the three that Mel Kiper has closest to Seattle. He actually has them picking Tre'Davious White. I would say you're looking at either Kevin King, Tre'Davious White, or Marlon Humphrey. That would be my guess. They do need, I do believe they need somebody. If not, you could possibly look at safety Budda Baker out of Washington. Because with Chancellor, he's been hurt. He's been hurt and in contract disputes with them. So, I mean, those would be the guys that I'm looking at that them possibly getting. Again, so Luis, I do apologize for not getting into to your comment until the end of the show, but that is it for us today. I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you guys with a post draft analysis for the Jets and Giants, as well as really Cleveland and San Francisco also. Tomorrow, also you got baseball tomorrow. The Mets opening up a series against Washington tomorrow. Yankees closing out against Boston tonight, and then starting up against Baltimore tomorrow. That'll be a first place series for the American League East. So I hope you guys did enjoy as well. We'll also have Ranger hockey tomorrow also. So I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you guys tomorrow.